All right, so today we're going deep into one of those scenes that just sends ripples throughout the entire story.
Oh, absolutely. This one's a bit of a slow burn, but trust me, the implications are huge.
It's all about those undercurrents, right? Those things that aren't said out loud, but you can just feel the tension simmering beneath the surface.
Exactly. And it all plays out in a pretty unlikely setting, a crypt.
You know, you don't typically think of a crypt as a place for major plot developments, but in Game of
Oh,
Thrones,
all bets are off when it comes to crypts.
right? And this particular scene in the crypts of Winterfell, well, it lays the groundwork for so much of the conflict and tragedy that's about to unfold.
It's like a powder keg waiting for a spark.
So to set the stage, we're talking about King Robert Baratheon's arrival at Winterfell. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't just a casual drop-in. It's a full-blown royal procession with like 300 people.
300 people, banners, horses, the whole 9 yards.
It's a statement. It's Robert announcing his power, letting everyone know that the king has arrived.
Right. And it's particularly significant because this is the North. We're talking about Winterfell. The Starks are known for their austerity, their practicality.
They're not about flashy displays of wealth and power.
Exactly. So this grand entrance of Robert's, it's a bit of a culture clash, and it immediately sets up this tension between the two worlds, the South and the North.
And that tension is only heightened by the characters themselves. We see this through Eddard Stark's eyes, as he observes the key players in Robert's entourage.
You've got Jaime Lannister, all golden armor and arrogance. Then there's Sandor Clegane the Hound, a walking embodiment of violence.
And of course, the young crown prince, Joffrey. Still a boy, but already showing signs of something troubling.
Oh yeah, Joffrey's definitely one to watch.
Right.
But even amidst all these larger-than-life figures, Eddard's attention is drawn to the king himself.
And it's a moment of recognition and dissonance. He sees his old friend Robert, the man he fought alongside. But he also sees how much Robert has changed.
The Robert of 15 years ago was a warrior, lean, fierce, a force to be reckoned with.
Wielding that legendary warhammer, right? And now, well, he's gained some weight. Let's just say he's enjoying the perks of being king a little too much.
8 stone heavier, to be exact.
Yeah. So it's not just a physical transformation. It's like Robert has become weighed down by the crown, by the burdens of ruling.
The dark circles under his eyes, the weariness in his voice. It all suggests a man who's perhaps not as happy as he should be.
It makes you wonder, right? What's going on beneath the surface of this jovial, boisterous king?
Definitely. And then there's the arrival of Queen Cersei and her younger children.
Oh, yeah. Talk about making an entrance. They roll up in this massive, ornate wheelhouse.
It's a symbol of Lannister wealth and power, but is also completely impractical for the North, especially for a place like Winterfell.
Exactly. You can just imagine those wheels getting stuck in the mud, and it's like a subtle foreshadowing of the conflicts to come.
Oh, definitely. The Lannisters are very much fish out of water in the North.
And then Robert cuts through all the formalities with this very direct request. Take me to the crypt, Ned. I want to see her.
Boom! There it is. The emotional core of this whole visit. It's not about politics or alliances, at least not in this moment.
It's about Lyanna Stark.
The woman Robert loved, the woman whose supposed abduction sparked a war.
And whose death continues to haunt him even after all these years.
So this journey into the crypt, it's not just about paying respects. It's about confronting ghosts, about facing unresolved grief.
And it's about the complex relationship between Robert and Ned. Two men bonded by a shared past, but now increasingly divided by their present circumstances.
So let's follow them down into that crypt, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's explore the history, the grief, and the secrets that lie buried there.
Okay, so picture this. You're descending these narrow, winding steps into the heart of Winterfell. You can feel the temperature drop.
That subterranean chill.
Yeah, and the air is thick with the scent of dust and decay.
Centuries of Stark history just pressing down on you.
And then you enter the crypt itself, this vast chamber with row upon row of granite pillars.
Each pillar marking the resting place of a Lord of Winterfell.
And they're not just lying in some simple tombs. They're seated on these massive stone thrones.
With stone direwolves at their feet and iron longswords across their laps.
It's meant to ward off vengeful spirits.
And it creates this incredibly eerie atmosphere, right? Like these ancient Starks are still watching over their descendants.
And it's interesting because some of those swords have rusted away over the centuries.
Which makes you wonder, right? Are those particular spirits somehow freer to roam?
It adds this whole other layer to the scene, this sense of ancient magic and mystery.
Definitely. And then amidst all these imposing figures, our attention is drawn to 3 specific tombs. Lord Rickard Stark, Brandon Stark, and Lyanna Stark.
3 tragedies that fundamentally shaped the lives of both Robert and Ned.
Rickard, the stern patriarch betrayed by the Mad King.
Brandon, the heir to Winterfell, cut down in his prime.
And Lyanna, the woman who captivated them both.
Robert's reaction to seeing her tomb is so raw, it's heartbreaking. He says she was more beautiful than that.
It's like he's still clinging to this idealized image of her.
And he laments that she's buried in darkness, that she never got to experience the life she deserved.
But Ned quietly defends her resting place. He says she was a Stark of Winterfell. This is where she belongs.
And it highlights this fundamental difference between them, right? Robert is all about grand gestures and romanticized ideals.
While Ned is grounded in duty and tradition, he's about honoring his family and their legacy.
And then Ned recalls Lyanna's last words, "Promise me."
He remembers the faint whisper, the smile, the clutching fingers. But everything after that promise is a blank.
It speaks to the trauma of that moment, the weight of whatever vow he made to his dying sister.
And the fact that he relies on Howland Reed's account to fill in the gaps, it suggests that he blocked out some of those memories.
It's like he couldn't bear the full weight of that grief.
And Robert, he interjects with this bitter reminder that he only got to kill Rhaegar once.
The man he blames for Lyanna's death.
The man he still battles in his dreams.
It shows that vengeance, even when achieved, doesn't necessarily bring closure.
And then that description of their battle at the Trident Robert's Warhammer against Rhaegar's ruby-encrusted armor.
It's this iconic image. The clash of two worlds, the end of an era.
But for Robert, it's also a source of lingering pain, a reminder of what he lost.
And then the conversation abruptly shifts to the present.
Yeah, Robert's like, okay, enough about the past, let's talk about Jon Arryn.
His hand, who recently died under mysterious circumstances.
It's a reminder that even amidst personal grief and reflection, the business of ruling goes on.
And Robert is worried about the succession. He's not in the best of health.
He's declining rapidly. And the tourney held in his honor, it was almost like a farewell.
It's like everyone can sense that the end of Robert's reign is approaching.
And with Jon Arryn gone, there's this dangerous power vacuum.
Catelyn Stark is particularly concerned about her sister, Lysa Arryn, Jon Arryn's widow.
She's worried about Lysa's mental state and about the safety of her young son, Robert Arryn.
But Robert dismisses Lysa's grief as madness. He's angry that she took Robert Arryn back to the Eyrie against his wishes.
He sees it as a challenge to his authority.
And it reveals this very pragmatic, perhaps even callous side to Robert.
He's a king, first and foremost. And he's not afraid to make tough decisions, even if it means hurting those close to him.
He even proposes fostering Robert Arryn with Tywin Lannister at Casterly Rock.
Now that's a power move, if I've ever heard one.
It's basically using the young heir as a pawn in the Game of Thrones.
And it shows how much Robert relies on the support of the great houses, even one as cunning and ruthless as House Lannister.
Ned is obviously not thrilled about this idea. He knows Tywin Lannister's reputation.
But he keeps his reservations to himself, for now.
Instead, he offers to take Robert Arryn as his own ward, appealing to the bond between Lysa and Catelyn.
It's a more compassionate solution. It's about putting the child's welfare first.
But Robert rejects the offer. He says he's already given his word to Tywin Lannister.
And that Lannister pride would never allow him to go back on his word.
Ned argues that Robert Arryn's well-being is more important than Lannister pride.
And Robert replies with that very cynical line, "That is because you do not sleep with a Lannister."
It's a crude reminder of the tangled web of alliances and rivalries in King's Landing.
And it highlights the growing divide between Robert and Ned. Their values or priorities are just so different now.
And then Robert finally reveals the true purpose of his visit. He asks Ned to be his hand,
The hand of the king.
the second most powerful person in the Seven Kingdoms.
The one who basically runs the realm. While the king, well,
Enjoys the finer things in life.
exactly. And Ned, he's not exactly jumping at the opportunity.
He feels unworthy. He knows it's a dangerous position.
But Robert, he's like, come on, Ned, we're brothers. You're the only one I can trust.
And he even jokes that he needs Ned to run the kingdom so he can focus on, hunting and feasting.
He even quotes that saying, what the king dreams, the hand builds.
Which is a nice way of putting it.
The lowborn version is a bit more blunt, shall we say.
Yeah. Let's just say it involves a lot of unpleasant cleanup.
But the point is, Robert needs Ned. He needs someone competent and honorable to keep the realm from falling apart.
And Ned, he's torn. He's a man of the North. He doesn't want to get tangled up in the intrigues of the South.
But he also feels a sense of duty to his old friend, to the realm.
And then Robert throws in another bombshell. He proposes a betrothal between his son Joffrey and Ned's daughter Sansa.
Talk about sealing the deal.
It's a power move, But it also feels a bit like Robert trying to recreate the past.
He was once betrothed to Lyanna Stark.
Right. And this marriage between Joffrey and Sansa, it's like he's trying to forge that same bond between their houses.
But Ned is taken aback. Sansa's only 11 years old.
It's a stark reminder of how different their views on marriage and family are.
For Robert, it's all about politics and alliances.
For Ned, it's about his daughter's happiness.
But Robert, he dismisses Ned's concerns. He says the marriage can wait a few years.
It's like he's not even considering the possibility that Ned might say no.
And then there's that moment where Robert pulls Ned to his feet.
It's a gesture of friendship, but it also feels a bit forceful.
It's like Robert is trying to assert his dominance, to remind Ned who's in charge.
And it's in that moment, standing amongst the tombs of his ancestors, that Ned feels this overwhelming sense of dread.
Like something terrible is about to happen.
He feels the weight of history pressing down on him, the weight of the decisions he's about to make.
And he knows that his life and the lives of his family are about to change forever.
As they leave the crypt, Ned looks back at the silent statues of his forefathers.
And he thinks to himself, and winter was coming.
It's a chilling reminder that the world is a dangerous place.
And that even the strongest bonds can be broken.
So yeah, that's the scene in the crypt.
It's a slow burn, but it's packed with foreshadowing and symbolism.
It sets up so much of the conflict and tragedy that's to come.
It's a pivotal moment in the story.
And it leaves us with so many questions.
Like, what will Ned do? Will he accept the position of his hand?
Will he agree to the betrothal between Sansa and Joffrey?
And what does that sense of dread mean? What's coming for Ned and his family?
Those are questions we'll have to grapple with as the story unfolds.
But one thing's for sure, winter is coming. And it's not going to be pretty.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the crypts of Winterfell.
Until next time.
Keep those dire wolves close.